James Helder, IFL TV, in association with Matt the Knife Global. With me, I've got none of them, head of Sky Boxing, Adam Smith.
Hi James.
And British boxing legend Carl Froch, aka the Cobra. How are we, fellas?
Very good, yeah, we just got in. Long flight, as you know, but it was good, wasn't it? There was a lot of Irish fans there.
Lots of travelling Irish fans. They always get behind their men, don't they, the Irish? They're so passionate. So
really excited, really excited. I think people really like Carl Frampton. I think it's not just, obviously he's a terrific fighter, he's a great talent, but I think they like him outside the ring.
What do you think his appeal is?
I think he's a down-to-earth guy. I think he's all business in the ring. He's a great guy outside of it. He's bright. He's a family man. He's got a lot of Barry about him. You know what Barry did all those years ago and brought Ireland together. I think Carl has got a lot of similarities. You know, it's obviously a different era, but I think that Carl appeals to the everyday man and woman on the streets of Belfast, and he's huge in Northern Ireland, and I think that they'll come over here. I think 4,000 or 5,000 are going to cheer him on Saturday night, and I could see that. It's a sort of mini Ricky Hatton effect. He's a good guy, isn't he?
He is, yeah, definitely. Good guy. Very down to earth. I think that's a good point. He's on all the level of other people in Belfast. He just talks to anybody and gets on with more. So I remember seeing him when I was in Ireland for the Sports Personality Awards, and I just love him out there. And the association with Barry McGuigan, obviously what Barry McGuigan went through and the career he had, because he was a great fighter, Barry was. He just keeps it rolling nicely.
He was a great fighter, wasn't he, Barry, and a great ambassador too. A wonderful sort of, everybody knew Barry McGuigan in all their households. He was a hero to so many, and I think, as I said, it's a different time now. It's probably harder for Carl to be sort of universally known, but I think that those who do know him, really swelling the support. And I think it's just, if he wins on Saturday night again and really makes a big statement against Leo Santa Cruz, I think it's just going to go, it's going to snowball even bigger. And I think to get him back to Ireland, it'll be some sort of homecoming in the summer.
Carl, I want a question for you. The rematch history, it tends to favour the person who won the first fight. Mentally, how much of an advantage would that give Carl Frampton coming into this fight?
I think it'll be an advantage because the way in which you'll approach it, very professional. I think it's only a problem if you get a little bit complacent in the training, and if you start thinking you're a bit too big for your boots. And as an amateur, I've done it a couple of times. You fight someone, you beat them, then you've got the rematch. You think, oh, I've already beat him, I'll beat him again. But you don't prepare the same. But as a professional, when it's your job, and he's got people like Bram McGuigan, his coach, obviously Shane, and he's a really well-schooled fighter now. He really does know what he's doing. There's no problem with him being complacent, no danger of that. I just think the advantage is now with him. He's got the win under his belt. He knows what he needs to do, and he'll come probably even better this time, in my opinion. I think he'll be better. So Leo Santa Cruz could come better. He could turn up better. He had that problem with his dad that's now behind him. Yeah. His dad's going to be in his corner, so that may have affected him, may not. But I personally don't think it's going to matter. But I'm biased because I want Carl Frampton. He's British. I want him back in England, bringing the belt back on UK soil, and I want the big fight. So, but I strongly believe that the momentum and the favourite is definitely Carl Frampton.
He's also a featherweight, a proper featherweight. And I think that really will have helped as well. The fact that he hurt Santa Cruz in the first fight when it was the test at 9 stone, and now he knows he'll be that bit more accustomed to the weight, and I think that will make him stronger. He'll have the confidence from the first fight. But I think him saying, I'm going to go out and stop him, and I think that they're very, very clever, the Frampton camp. I think Shane will get him boxing a lot more this time. I think they'll use he's brilliant on his feet, Frampton. I think Santa Cruz is going to come with so much heat this time.
And he's a workhorse as well, isn't he? Santa Cruz.
He is. It's going to be a hard night. Well, everybody has a hard night with Santa Cruz, and I think that they've got to be prepared for 12 really, really tough rounds. But I expect Carl to box him a little bit more this time. But some of the rounds, and the crowd, there's going to be a lot of Mexicans here too. It'll be really interesting to see which way the judges will vote round after round, because I think some of them are going to be nip and tuck again. It can't not be a great fight.
Santa Cruz made an interesting point where he felt in New York the crowd was so pro-Irish, he felt that shots were landing maybe on his gloves, on his arms, that were getting scored. Do you feel with 4,000 to 5,000 Irish coming over again that it could be a repeat in Santa Cruz's mind of that situation?
Well, it's sort of his home patch, really, Santa Cruz. I mean, you know, he's not far away, you know, Mexican, Californian, and you know, he's going to bring a load of his fans too. So I think it's, you know, it's, if anything, it slightly favours Santa Cruz, but the Irish have travelled, which is great. And it's great for Carl Frampton, but yeah, this will come down ultimately to who's the better guy on the night, and I think that, you know, it's very close, but I think that Carl probably has the pedigree, and I think because he had the first win. But we've seen with, you know, the Morales Barrera trilogy, the Ward Gatti trilogy, rematches don't always go the same way. It did with Collins and Eubank, and a little bit more emphatically, it did with Collins and Ben, it did with Froch and Groves, although obviously Carl had a much tougher time first time round, so he'll tell you he probably switched on a lot more for the rematch, got himself mentally prepared as well as physically, and Santa Cruz might just have gone away and done that this time. He might come, you know, better prepared with his dad and all the rest of it. But I think ultimately it might still come down to that little bit of class that Frampton possesses.
We're quite fortunate enough to have IBF World Champion Lee Selby and Jonathan Barros on the card as well. It's kind of like a real old school way of setting up a potential fight between Frampton and Selby if they both win. You mentioned that big homecoming moment. Could that unification clash be that homecoming moment?
Well, I spoke to Stephen Espinosa at Showtime a couple of weeks ago, their head of the James DeGale Badu Jack week. And I think deep down he secretly wants to see either Santa Cruz win or a draw, so they have a trilogy. I think that would really suit the Americans to have three. And you know, we love trilogies, don't we? You know, the Barrera Moraleses and the Marquez Pacquiaos. You know, we love all those sort of, you know, great fights that go 2 or 3 times. But you know, Carl made sure that George Groves, that business was shut. Carl will want to make sure that the Santa Cruz business is shut, because he'll be desperate to get back home to Ireland. And what better fight to come back to than if Selby, you know, shines here on this stage in Vegas. Both of them making their debut in Vegas, and then they come back and they clash back on our soil. It's a terrific fight in the summer. You know, Lee Selby with all his skills and tricks, and Frampton with his come forward style, but his adaptability. He can box on the back foot. He's got many skills as well. I think it's a lovely match for the summer.
It's a great fight, that is. Selby Frampton. I mean, it's difficult to pick a winner. You've probably got to favour Frampton in that, just because, you know, the role he's on. Selby's not been really that active.
And the experience.
Yeah, the experience. But Selby's awkwardness and his range, there's like a box of tricks in the ring. Selby is so, like I say, awkward. It's difficult to catch. How would Frampton tackle with that? It's shorter than him. He's got to close the gap, get near him. It's a fight we definitely want to see on UK soil. Well, that happened in Ireland, won't it, that one? But it's a big one, that is.
We just arrived, Jason. We heard Lee Selby look terrific in the workout earlier today. Yeah.
The Americans are really buying into him at the moment as well. He's sort of the Welsh made with the thing, the hand speed that he's got.
He's a great fighter though. He's exciting to watch. When he produces the goods, he really does look good. I know he's been in a couple that he's sort of laboured the win, but he's in second gear. When he switches it on, he's having those way. He looks special, I think, Selby. So that's a fantastic fight, Selby Frampton, if it happens.
It's funny the way boxing works. We thought Josh Warrington Selby would happen, and you know, would Warrington have enough power to diffuse the skill set of Selby? Because I think Selby could, you know, win round after round in a fight like that. But Warrington's got that work rate, and that was an interesting one. That seems to have gone for the moment. But if Frampton and Selby meet, you know, back home in Ireland, and Carl deserves it. If he wins and wins in style here on Saturday night, he deserves a massive homecoming in the summer, open air, you know. And I think that the Irish will really come out for it.
One fight I would like to touch on while I put you both here. March the 18th, Gennady Golovkin, Danny Jacobs. It's been made. It's a terrific fight to watch. I said admiration for Danny Jacobs. He comes across as such a nice guy, so admirable to listen to and so well spoken. Firstly, what are your thoughts on that as a fight, guys?
I think it's good it's happened because Golovkin's got in a position now where he's desperate for a fight. I mean, he's talking about fight to me. I know Eddie Hearn's mad to get me back in the ring because and I have a little whine of Eddie Hearn now and again, but I do think about fighting. I'm retired. I'm happily retired. I'll probably never fight again, but I use the word there, probably. So you never know. But Golovkin's not got that name on his record that stands out. I know he fought Kell, but Kell was too light for him, really. So this is the first time that Golovkin's going in with somebody who's actually dangerous and middleweight that could do something. Everybody thoroughly expects, and I do as well, Golovkin to do the business. But he just might struggle. He just might come unstuck mid to late if it goes that far, because Golovkin gets hurt, he gets hit. Well, he probably doesn't get hurt, he gets hit. but Jacobs can punch. Jacobs is a well-schooled, all-round, solid world champion, and if anybody can give Golovkin anything to worry about, it'll be Jacobs. If Golovkin walks through him, then Golovkin just might be the real deal, and he'll have to step up to super middleweight at least to get some sort of a match.
There was a brief moment.
Did you see it?
There was a brief moment after Golovkin Brook where he stood up at ringside, having commentated, and just had a little look. Just a little look, okay? That's all I'm saying. The Golovkin-Jacobs fight is a really interesting one. You know, Danny is a proper middleweight. He's a good fighter. He can hit a bit. He can box a bit. Great story. Great talker. Terrific analyst he'll make, actually, and I know he does a bit as well. You know, we use Paulie Malignaggi, but Danny Jacobs knows his stuff. You know, he's great. It's a great tale, and I think to have it in New York as well is fantastic. And I think he'll test Golovkin. I expect Golovkin to come through it. I think Carl's right. I'd like to see him at super middleweight. You know, how would he go with the likes of your De Gales or, you know, your Carl Froches of yesteryear? But, you know, well, this is it. This is it. It's, you know, will he be able to make that move, or does he just want to stay where he's reigning supreme? The Alvarez fight obviously is a fight that everybody wants to happen. You know, what I did learn from the Brook fight, and obviously Golovkin was probably always going to be too big, too strong, and possibly too good for Kell Brook. But Kell caught him at times. Kell found a way to hit him, and hit him fairly often in a short space of time. And you know what? I think that, you know, a super middleweight who's got a bit of speed, carries a bit more power. That could be interesting, you know. Golovkin, there was a little bit of vulnerability about Golovkin. Yes, he found a way. Yes, he was too strong. But if you're looking for holes in someone who's got the perfect record and looks pretty unbeatable, they are there, I think. One or two.
Let's not forget as well, Golovkin's getting old now. What is he, 34? He had a massive, long amateur career. Kazakhstan, you know, tough school of boxing in Kazakhstan, Eastern Europeans, especially from that area. It's just tough, it's hard from 8, 9, 10 years old. They're thrown in the deep end.
And he can't take punches, you know.
For that long.
And I think, but saying that, somebody's going to have to take Golovkin's medicine, and he can really dish it out. He's such a hard puncher.
Do you think Golovkin's just getting past his best now at this time of his career?
I think it's interesting. You know, I think it's interesting. I honestly think a year and a half ago, if you two had met in the ring, it would have been an absolute humdinger. It's not going to happen now, James. I won't let it happen. He works with me now.
I was talking to Tom Loeffler in Monte Carlo about this exact subject, and before the Jacobs fight got announced, he was speculating that potentially your name could be in the mix. Would you come out of retirement for a fight like that, Carl? I'm going to ask you straight up.
Would I was, though?
Would you come out of retirement for a fight like that, for a big fight?
Probably not, no, if I'm totally honest. Probably not. But anything can happen on the day. The contract's in front of me, the weight's made, everyone's agreeing, and we're all happy. Anything can happen in boxing. I'm very fit. I'm still in the gym, I'm still training. I'm doing a lot of running now, my weight's coming down. I didn't think my weight would shift, but I'm back down to about 13 stone now, so yeah, it's...
Do you think about coming back? Does it cross your mind more than once?
Not often, so I don't really miss fighting, I don't miss the training, I don't miss it enough to say I want to come back, and I left on such a high, I've got nothing to prove. All I can do is damage my legacy now and look like I'm being greedy. You know, I don't need to come back to the ring. But if that special fight was there for me that I really fancied, then who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Carl likes a challenge, but his challenge now is to become a great commentator. He's a real powerful investment for us. He's got the gravitas, he's got the experience of fighting at all different levels, all around the world, and obviously, you know, being one of the best super middleweights we've ever produced. A great fighter now. He knows the game. He respects everyone that steps through those ropes. As I said, at any level, whether it's a 4-6 rounder, right up to the very top, like we've got on Saturday with Frampton and Santa Cruz. And I think fighters will listen to what he says, and I like to see him become, you know, the next great commentator in the sport, great analyst, and that's what I think his challenge is at the moment.
I'll definitely find that a challenge, and I think this job, this work I'm doing for Sky, and being around these big fights, time after time, all the big fights I attend. I'm looking forward to David Haye, Tony Bellew, Joshua Klitschko, massive fight. I mean, that's probably what's kept me out of the ring, because if I didn't have this, I'd be sat at home, still training, I'm still doing all the bits and bobs, I'm still busy, I've got my kids, I've got a young family at home, but I don't know, I really do think that if I didn't have the Sky and I didn't get these picks I get from being at these big fights, maybe I would have had that one more already. So Adam Smith's fault if you don't see me fight again. All the fans.
Right decision, stay retired, go out on the high.
Before we go, I just want to talk a little bit about current affairs. We've seen Kell Brook, potentially Amir Khan. Will it happen? Won't it happen? The saga has been a lot said and done so far, a lot of water under the bridge. What are your thoughts on the fight firstly? Can it happen? Can it be made?
There's one fight that I always wanted to happen when in the early middle days of Sky sports history, and that was Ricky Hatton against Junior Witter. It never happened because a number of reasons, but Frank Warren rightfully kept them apart. Ricky was going his way, Junior was dangerous, and the time passed, and I think both of them probably actually regret that it never happened. I think if Kell Brook and Amir Khan doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, I think both fighters will live to regret that. My gut feeling is it will happen. It's too big a fight not to happen. I think they should have a couple of fights like Froch. I think there should be, there's a real story, a real narrative. It's a sellout anywhere. They could do it at Old Trafford. They could, or wherever really, And I think it's a fight that both of them want. They might blame the other one. And money has obviously got to be right both sides. But deep down, both guys want that fight. I know that because it very nearly happened before Khan fought Alvarez and Kell ended up fighting Golovkin. It very nearly happened. But there was a big swerve from Amir. He got the huge fight against Canelo and it didn't. I think it will, but I don't think it will happen anytime soon.
Who has to bend? Does someone have to take less of a cut and make a statement of taking less?
Ask Carl that.
What has to happen, Carl, for the fight to take place?
I think it needs to be fair and reasonable. I mean, how long has it been since Amir Khan's hold a world title? Best part of 5 years maybe since he's actually been a world champion. Maybe you want to check the stats, I might be wrong, but it's not far off that. Kell Brook's a world champion. I know he's got that loss to Golovkin, but he's never been wiped out. So from my point of view, I don't want to say too much like I'm giving Amir Khan stick, but to cut it short, the 70-30 demands that he was asking for me, is absolutely ridiculous. I do feel that maybe he deserves a bigger slice of the cake, maybe 60-40 because of his name, because he is a bigger name than Kell. But 70-30 for me tells me he doesn't want the fight for whatever reason, because that's called pricing yourself out of it. So I'm not impressed with that. I don't want to give Amir Khan too much stick. I'm really, really disappointed with that negotiation tactic. So like Adam said, hopefully the fight will happen. I think the fight must happen and probably will happen, but that's just ridiculous.
I think just standing up for Amir a little bit here, I think that he had a bad loss to Alvarez. He did okay for 4 rounds, and then obviously he got knocked out in a damaging way, and he needed time. He's had injuries as well. He might want to fight before he goes into the ring with Kell, because if he loses to Kell and he hasn't had that sort of warm-up thing, he might want that. That's a possibility. There's Ramadan in June as well. He might want to warm up in April, May. It could happen back end of the year. That's a possibility. So I don't know, maybe you get Kell and Amir out on the same night, get them, build up like that, a bit like we're doing with Frampton and Selby here, and then they fight, down the line. But maybe it's a fight for the autumn. I would be really disappointed if it didn't happen, and I think the two fighters will be really disappointed if it didn't happen. So I think deep down they want to know who's the better man, and also the weight's important. Is it going to happen at welterweight? Is it going to happen light middle, which will definitely favour Kell? Kell basically is. I think he should be campaigning now. He showed at 154 probably. So what will the weight be? But it can be a catch weight. What does it does it have to be for world titles? People just want to see Khan Brook Khan, whatever, in a ring together. It will divide the British fight fans, and it'll be a great narrative to get involved in.
It'll be really, really good. But anyway, on other news, I've got a poker lesson to give this man. The poker room waiting for us.
I'm loving it.
He's the poker player.
With the Cobra.
He's the poker player. I've never played, and he tried to explain a bit on the plane, and I got absolutely lost.
He won't be playing poker tonight. But we're in Vegas, so we're gonna have a little look around, see what we're doing. Anyway, how long's this interview? Half an hour?
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for giving me 45
Tell
minutes
Cougar
of
I'm going to send him an invoice.
And I'll catch you again real soon.
Cheers, James, no problem.
Cheers,
Okay, then.